माइक ऑन हो गया? माइक इज ऑन जस्ट नाउ. Okay. So where will I get the chart? Where are these? Good morning, everyone. Very good morning. we are little late by 10 minutes, but nevertheless, now we are going to start our session, and we are going to start with our topic 1. Okay, you all are smiling, and it gives me confidence to start the class. So, how was the last class? Was it meaningful in the terms of you understanding the syllabus? Okay. So, in today's class, what we are going to do, we are going to start with our chapter 1. Okay, we are starting with ancient history. And the books that we have discussed, the book list that we have discussed in the last class is going to be the same. We are starting with NCERT. In the class lecture, NCERT and any other reference book, whatever is required, I will be taking all of that up here only in the classroom. So you need not to go back and search for like 5 books on ancient India itself. You have to only follow NCERT, and after that just follow one reference book. R.S. Sharma I have asked you to follow. Rest is your wish. If you want to change R.S. Sharma with any other book, you can do so. Okay. So in the last class, we have understood the very idea of what is there in this subject. We have analyzed the trend as well. And by analyzing the trend and by looking at the importance of history, we have got this clarity in the last class that how meaningful it is to put good number of hours and effective hard work in this particular subject. Today, the chapter 1 starts with the introduction to history and the sources of history. Now, when I say sources of history, it means we are going to today also talk about, apart from the introduction part of history, we are also going to talk about the sources which helps us understand history, right? So, in the last class also, we have discussed little bit about it. For example, we have discussed there are 2 sources, archaeological sources we have discussed in the last class, and also the literary sources. Today we will be talking about that. So we are going to start first of all with the introduction to the subject. Now in the introduction part, the most important thing we are going to talk about is the timeline. Why timeline is important to discuss in the first class itself, although it's not something which at this stage of preparation is, it is required. Whether you are a beginner, you are sitting for the second time in the preparation, whatever it is, because timeline is something which should be known to everyone who is preparing for civil services. But because we are starting it today, I feel that it is important for us to start from the very beginning, even if it feels like starting with the ABC of the subject. Because in the first 3-4 classes, if we are starting with the ABC of the subject, then it becomes easy for all of you to pick the flow and also to understand the terms of this particular subject in a proper manner which is needed. Because otherwise, when you will be finishing up with the ancient history, and if anybody asks you about the timeline, how many years have been lapsed, let us say, between Indus Valley civilization and this particular time period, and if you have no idea about it, now that means that there is a lot of gap between what we were expecting us to understand and what we are doing right now. So from day 1, even if it feels like we are starting from nursery class ABC, we will be doing it like that, so that everyone who is with us right now starting with this lecture understands and starts from the same point, and we all are at the same page at all the stages of this subject. Clear? Settle down, settle down. Okay. What's your name? Shringa. What's the spelling? And what is the meaning? Peak. Wow, that's great. We have Adarsh also in the house. Chalo. Adarsh, we're talking about you only. That our new student has entered the class. Who? You? Okay. So, let us begin with chapter 1 now. All these things that we are seeing here, understanding the timeline, relevance, focus areas and sources. Rough notebook you all have, or the class notes notebook. Don't make your original notes in the class. Okay? Alright. Let us start first of all with the topics that we are going to talk about in today's class. The first thing we are going to talk about is the very fundamental question: what to study, why to study history, and why is it so important to study history? First thing, when you start your class 6th NCRT, so when you start with class 6th NCRT, so today, once the class is over, go back home and start reading class 6th NCRT history book, the chapter 1. In the chapter 1, you will find that lot of stories are given there, and through those stories, lot of also the things given in terms of actual stories, and some of them they have just put in place to give us a sense so that we can relate what exactly is the meaning of history and why is it relevant. Read that first chapter, that will give you clarity about the subject. Second, once we are done with this part, second is to understand periodization of history. So what exactly is periodization? We will understand that part. Second, how we get into periodization and what exactly is there in periodization, that we will do. Now this is not in any NCRTs, or for that matter in any other book you will not find it, because this is so fundamental to this subject that this is expected that anyone who is starting with the subject of history will get into the flow of periodization and terms and time chronology. So the next thing is time chronology or the timeline. Again, this will not be there in any of the books. This is something that we expect you to understand on your own. But for us, because we want our foundation very, very strong, we are doing it in the class itself. So these things will not directly be there in the book. Then we will focus on each segment. Different segments we have discussed in the last class. And in this class, we will be focusing on the specific timelines based upon which NCRT has divided the areas: ancient, medieval, modern. Then we will be talking about sources of history. So in most of the books that you refer, the first chapter always starts with the sources of history. But there's a lot to understand and read before this very particular chapter of sources of history. So this chapter you will be finding in any of your reference books, and also in NCRT class 6. NCRT class 6. You will easily find this chapter, sources of history. This will be there, this will be there. Just read the initial few chapters, I think chapter 1 and chapter 2. That will be sufficient for us to have a background of what all these things actually are once the lecture is done. Okay, so this is a sequence in which we are going to start our session today. Okay, so what is the first thing that we are going to start now? The first thing we are going to start now is what and why is associated with history. Let's look at that part. What is this what and what is this why? What is history? And the second thing is why to read history. Yesterday we talked about it, we discussed about it little bit. So now I would want all of you to give me the clarity on what exactly is history. What do you understand by the subject history? Because today in a formal sense we are entering into this subject. So we had a 2.5 hour long discussion in our last class. That every part of that discussion means what is history and why to study history. So tell me, what is history? Okay. Do you think study of past is sufficient enough to define history? Then please explain other parts of it as well. Is this color visible on the white background? Okay. Let me change this. Is this color visible? Study of past. This is one part of it. But is this sufficient? No. Why? Then what are the other parts? Understanding? Okay. Culture? Economic? political, social, governance part of it. So history means understanding all of these dimensions. Once you understand these dimensions, then only you can say that now we are understanding what had happened already in the past and how we are traveling in time, and we have got, you know, this particular kind of setup today. So when you say today we are living in a democratic country, right? Now, democratic country gives you the rights, freedom, liberty of lot of things. Like, yes, then the very fundamental thing, to choose anything you want. What to eat, where to go, what to wear, where to study, where not to study, whatever you want to, the basic thing, right? Do you really think that in the past, such kind of setup was there? Have you watched any of the documentaries, historical documentaries, or any movies for that matter, where earliest empires and dynasties have been shown? Have you watched any of the things? So what kind of setup have you got from those movies, or whether it's a fiction one or whether it's a real one? Was it a democracy? Then what was the sort of setup? Yes? Huh? It was monarchical setup. It was monarchical setup. What is monarchy? It's basically a governance system. How king is going to rule. So there is a set of powerful people who are going to rule the remaining ones, the subjects. Who is defining the rules that I am the king and the others are the subjects? Itself. Next morning we are coming up, you know, Monday it is, okay, today I am the king. You all are my subjects. Is it going to happen like that? No. And is it going to happen in a single day? That means any form of structure that you see today, any political, economic, social, the governance structure system, whatever you see today, it takes lot and lot of time for that particular setup, for that particular institution to shape itself. And whatever we are seeing today is therefore the result of all those, you know, trials and tribulations, the changes. Today what you are seeing is the thing that has been materialized through all those changes. This is why studying history is important, and this is what constitutes history. So in history, we are going to look at all these institutions, that is one part. We are also going to look at what? We are also going to look at the events. Now these events includes major wars, battles. Is there any difference between a battle and a war? War is between two people and battle is between four people. Huh? Between empire. War is a bigger idea or a bigger event that happen. In a war, multiple battles can take place. So is the difference between empire and a dynasty. Empire is a big unit, whereas dynasty talks about the kinship, the bloodline of the ruling class. So the empire is what they are going to set, and dynasty specifically talks about the bloodline, the kinship of the ruling class. These terms we will come across when we are starting with this subject, and the most important thing is all of these terms are there in your class 6 NCERT itself. So we have to read these terms. If these things are given in the basic books, that means it means a lot when it comes to preparing or building your fundamentals. If we are going to ignore these topics, these terms, we are not going to understand what is happening in medieval history, for that matter in the later part of ancient India. Okay, so This is what we call as history. Now look at the why part of it. What we have just discussed. Why is it important to understand? Why is it important to study history? To understand how the things have been materialized till today, till this present moment of time. Right? So to understand how our perspectives, how our, let us say, entirely culture shape us today. Now culture entails everything. Culture entails food, tradition, clothing, heritage, belief system, tradition, or everything which we are made up of. So I am made up of the belief system I have. I am made up of the thoughts that I have in my brain, and these thoughts are not working in isolation completely. From where we are coming, that region, that state, that place, that family has to do a lot with what we are today. That every part of it includes culture. In ancient history, lot of terms, lot of things you will find associating themselves with the thing culture. BMAC culture in Central Asia. Bactria Margiana archaeological culture. From where we believe that Aryans came down to India. Now Aryans came down to India has been a proven theory, a proven thing. Earlier it was a theory, now it's a proven thing. So the DNA matching and all of that, today we will see that in archaeology as a source to study history. Okay. So the first question was, what entails or what exactly is there in history? So these are the things that we are going to see throughout history, meaning starting from ancient, moving towards medieval, then modern part, and again the word history is part of it itself. Art and culture is part of it itself. So for example, when we are talking about Maurya Empire, any ruler of Maurya Empire? Chandragupta, Samudragupta, Harshgupta. Okay, okay. So let us talk about the most famous one, Ashok, the safe option. Let us start with that. Ashok. When you talk about the Emperor Ashok, now you always will try to understand his policies, political setup, economic setup, but at the same time we also need to look at the cultural contributions associated with Emperor Ashok, or for that matter Maurya Empire. Do you think that cultural association is important to understand? Art and culture part is important to understand in any time period? Why? To understand the trends of. Okay. So for example, in Ashokan period, we have got beautiful pillars they have crafted. And on those pillars, we have also got some sort of inscription. They have used Brahmi and different other scripts and languages, and they have started writing it there. Now tell me that, let us say we are given a chance to visit one of the sites related to Maurya Empire, and we have accidentally found this pillar. Lot of things are written on it. So that is a cultural aspect attached to it. Because they have tried to, those pillars, whatever structures they were at that point of time erecting, all those pillars, all those structures were there to some extent beautify the city as well, right? And also they are giving us some sort of messages, some inscription is there. That inscription is giving us some detail about the time. So can we say that it is possible to segregate art and culture of Maurya Empire from that of the political history? No. If you are going to separate the two, you will not get into the flow of this time period of history. Culture gives you the idea to understand the lifestyle of the people, the trends, how we are moving from one time period to another time period. Right. So it is very important, therefore, to understand that whenever we are starting with any chapter, finish that chapter with the decline part, and then the associated culture. Associated culture is very important. If you're not preparing your notes like this, you will only end up messing your notes. You will only be having the political, geographical, economic and social setup in your notes related to one dynasty, one empire, one chapter, one topic. But art and culture, if not written together, will not be able to give you the sense of continuity in those trends. So we are going to do it like that. Starting with Maurya Empire, finishing it together. Starting with Gupta Empire, finishing it all together. Like that we are going to do. The first question now we have answered. Now the source from where you are going to look at this part is class 6 NCERT chapter 1. Okay. Second thing is periodization of history. Now this part, periodization of history, is not there in your books. Now let us, before periodization of history, it is important to understand the timeline that we are going to use in history everywhere. So throughout history, we will be talking about the timeline. This timeline will help you understand the chronology as well. Okay, what if I ask you, how many years have been lapsed between Indus Valley civilization and 2026, the present time? Can you give me the number of years? How many years have been lapsed already? $6,000? Rough estimate? Bargaining we are doing? चलो थोड़ा थोड़ा लगा लेते हैं. 6,000, let us say. How do we calculate that? Or if I ask the point or the time period when Alexander died till this very year, how many years have been lapsed? We are not clear about that, right? So it is important, therefore, in the class first, पहली ही class में ये समझना बहुत important है that how the timeline works. I will be using a little bit of Hindi also in the middle. There are students with us who are also trying to understand some of the things in Hindi. So I will be using both the languages. At any point of time, if any student feels uncomfortable about any word, you're not getting meaning of that, just tell me. Okay? ठीक है. Timeline से start करेंगे. So, do you understand the meaning of BCE and AD? What is BCE? Buddha era? Before Christ era? Okay, before Christ era. Or before common era? कुछ भी लगा लो. CE should be matching Christ or common. Okay, so in your history book, these things will be there. First is BCE and AD. These two terms, ये हमेशा आपको मिलेगा. These two things you will find. Because, okay, fine. Just tell me, what is this year? 2026. Can we call it BCE? Then AD. We will call it AD. So 2026 AD means 2026 में number of days we are counting. How many days? 60? 360? 565? So खाना नहीं खाया क्या? जोर से बोलो फिर. 365. Right? So when we are talking about BCE AD, we are talking about years. A specific year we are referring to. If I say 2026 AD, matlab this year. Okay. Now if you look at the timeline here, the timeline starts from BCE. यहाँ से शुरुआत होती है. If we have to go back in time, we have to start from BCE. यहाँ से शुरू करना पड़ेगा. Then moving all the way to AD. अब आप लोग मुझे बताओगे AD में कैसे जाएंगे? How we are going to switch to AD? So I'm writing number of years here. 500 AD. Sorry, BCE. Then I will also be giving you some rules to follow in the timeline. So we start with 500 BCE. फिर 500 BCE के बाद 400 BCE, 300 BCE, no, 200 BCE, then okay, okay, that means we have to start from the rules. Let us, no, write down the rules. It is important. And there should be no shyness about it. No need to shy about any of the fact that we have no clarity about certain things. See, if you have all the clarity, फिर आप मेरी क्लास में बैठते ही क्यों? हमको clarity नहीं है, इसलिए तो हम बैठे हैं. हर्षवर्धन is like, yes. Finally, ma'am has realized that. ठीक है? So, write down the rules. Rules लिखिए. ये कलर दिख रहा है ठीक से? Okay. Rules लिखिए. Rule number 1. When we start with BCE, before common era, we write the dates in reverse order. BCE reverse order. BCE का मतलब ही reverse order है. So, if I say 500 BCE, अगर मैंने बोला 500 BCE, 500 BCE, तो moving ahead in time, आगे जब हम चलेंगे टाइम में, it will be 400 BCE, 300 BCE, 200 BCE. The more you are moving from 500 towards 100 AD, 100 BCE, more you are moving in time towards the AD, So BCE always works in the reverse order, right? Now tell me, if I write 700 BCE and 500 BCE, पहले कौन सा आएगा? 700 BCE? Yes, 700 BCE. This was exactly the time when later Vedic period was ending. It was in its decline period. And this was exactly the time when we were switching towards second urbanization, Mahajanpada period. 700 BCE onwards. Gradually it will happen. It will not be like this कि Sunday को Vedic period खत्म होगा और Monday को उठेंगे और महाजनपद आ जाएंगे. Gradually in time. You remember the question we discussed in last class? एक question हमने पढ़ा था that how the geography of a region shapes ancient India. Explain. कल क्या था एक question हमने discuss? This is what UPSC wants to understand from all of you, from all the students who understand history well कि भाई एक दिन में चीजें चेंज नहीं होती. It takes a lot time, long time. बहुत समय लगता है materialize होने में. और क्या materialize होगा? जो आप लोगों ने मुझे शुरू में बताया, ये सब materialize होगा. Every bit of it. तब जाकर के एक defined new culture बनेगा. So Vedic period culture is different from Indus Valley people culture. Now, in this timeline, let us also place these two known settlements. सबसे पहला IBC everyone knows, Indus Valley Civilization. Indus Valley Civilization. ये हम सबको मालूम है. You know the time period of Indus Valley Civilization? चलो अभी मैं बता देती हूँ. फिर जब हम पढ़ लेंगे तब हमें याद हो जाएगा. Right from 3300 BCE. The earliest evidence we have got from this time period. 3300 BCE. This is the beginning time period where we start to get few of the evidences stating that a new kind of setup, new kind of settlement is now being started here. कुछ तो नया यहाँ पर शुरू हुआ है. ये तो कलर दिख ही नहीं रहा है ग्रीन. ओके आप लोगों को ग्रीन दिख रहा है? रिफ्लेक्शन नहीं कर रहा? चलो इसके साथ लिखते हैं. सो इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन IVC. जैसे ही हमने बिगिन किया, द मोमेंट वी स्टार्टेड 3300 BCE, we started to look at the initial evidence. Then we will move towards the mature period of it. कोई भी civilization में, any civilization's mature period or any empire's mature period always talks about the peak of that empire or that settlement. Peak meaning what? At that point of time, construction would be at, yes, the kind of material they are using, really good. Good engineering, good agriculture. Society mein we will be finding different kind of hierarchies being set up, new institutions are coming up. That is the mature period. Then after the mature period, again we start to see decline period. Similarly, here if you see from 3300 BCE till 1900 BCE, 1900 BCE is the time where we have got the evidence of late period of Harappan civilization. तो हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन का जो या इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन सेम थिंग, उसका जो लास्ट पीरियड है उसके जो लेट एविडेंस है वो इस पीरियड से मिलते हैं. नाउ द टाइमलाइन स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 3300 BCE and it finished at 1900 BCE. तो 1900 BCE पे एंड हुआ, तो ये हम कहेंगे इट इज द रिवर्स ऑर्डर. So it started from this time period, it ended at this time period. Similarly, Vedic period, the time period where Rig Veda and other Vedas we started to see. So इसका time period roughly हम लेते हैं 1500 BCE से शुरुआत हुआ. It started at this point of time and 600 BCE. Sometimes we also write it 700 BCE क्योंकि decline part है. And also understand one very important rule in history, especially in this part of history. History के इस वाले हिस्से में जहाँ पे we do not have much clarity on exact dates. Do not fixate yourself on exact year or exact date. So for example, it is 600 BCE, it could be 700 BCE in some other book. Till the time we have got evidence from the literary sources, literature, where specific dates again corroborated with the archaeological evidence, वो dates हमारे पास है. For example, British history, years are mentioned. In this particular year, this famine happened. In this year, this governor general took this step, things like that. But when you talk about this part of history, we are totally relying on the archaeological source. आज हम उस पे बात करेंगे. Do you understand the meaning of archaeology? What is it? Study of past. Huh? Excavation is part of archaeology. So can we say that archaeology means the study of remains, human remains, or whatever was there in the earlier time, material remains, not human remains only, material remains, bones, any animal bones, human bones, plant vestiges, any remnant of plants, seeds, pollens, artifacts. Artifacts meaning anything which is human made, can be taken from one place to another place. For example, pottery. Today when we excavate, we get the potsherds. छोटे छोटे pieces मिलते हैं उसके टूटे हुए pottery के. That is also part of archaeology. Huh? Temples. Yes, temples. Coins. Very good. All these things are the part of archaeology. Literary part is different, literature is different. तो उसको भी देखेंगे. So ये वाला जो segment है, in this part of history, we are more relying on archaeology. ठीक है? So rule number 1 is BCE. Whenever we say in the timeline before Common Era, it means reverse order. Rule number 2 says that when we move from BCE to AD, what is AD? Huh? Harshvardhana has said after death. Anno Domini. What language is this? Greek? French? Don't laugh at each other. Your turn will also come. At least try. Spanish. Have you heard about Latin? Used in the Roman Empire. Heard about Roman Empire? Roman Empire. And in the initial churches of Europe, this language was used. This was difficult to be read by the commoners. It is very similar to how we see the classic Sanskrit. Very difficult to be understood by the commoners. We started speaking in Prakrit. Very different. Okay. So Anno Domini is basically a Latin word. It means in the year of Lord. In the year of Lord, referring to Jesus Christ. So when we talk about AD, what is the order here? Is this reverse order again? No. The order will be the regular order. Regular order meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, increasing order, exactly, right? Not the regular order like my regular pizza and regular Coke. No. Regular order meaning the proper sequence that. So, now tell me one thing. So, from this time period, 3300 BCE, we started our journey. एक एक ईयर करके आगे जाएंगे. Somewhere in the time period we will reach first BCE. ऐसे आते आते आ जाएगा ना first BCE. After first BCE, we are going to switch into AD. Okay, we are switching into AD now. As demanded by you, we are switching into AD. Now tell me, what will be the first year in AD? 100? No one? 0? So, first BCE और उसके बाद 1 AD? 0 AD? 1 BCE is 0 and then 1 AD? Huh? There is nothing called 0 in time. So, we cannot be looking at a year which is 0 year. When we reach this time, first AD, we will be talking about the next year as first AD. First BCE and then first AD. This is the biggest mistake I have seen students committing. And that is why the number of years you also calculate sometimes goes wrong. First BCE and then first AD. There is no 0 year. So first BCE and then first AD. Okay. Alright. Then second AD, third AD, fourth AD. When we will be completing 100 years like this. First AD, second, third, fourth, 100 AD. That will be called? Yes, century it will be called. Similarly, initial 1000 years will be called? 100th century? Okay, this you will find out. This I will not tell you. Okay, first 100 years, first century. Now you understand. So whenever we say Gupta Empire was there in the 4th century AD. Now you understand the meaning of it. 4th century AD meaning we are talking about those entire 100 years. What is this century? 21st. If I say 4th century, so that century will start at what time? Ending at? Now is it clear? Clear? Okay, ठीक है. तो ये बड़ा important चीज है समझना. If you are not understanding it, then there is no meaning of studying history. So rule number 3, there is no 0 year. And trust me on this, people mistake the switching of timelines with 0. Anno Domini, A-N-N-O-D-O-M-I-N-I. Anno Domini. In the year of Lord. But the modern historians, in order to make it neutral religion wise, now they have started using instead of BCE and AD as CE, which is, yes, common era. Common era in place of AD. And BCE similarly, so we use it as BCE or BE, meaning the earlier time period. It is simply representing before common era, BCE, BC, CE, simply. So these are neutral terms we are using, okay, but meaning is same. These are the rules that are important to understand the timeline. अगर ये नहीं समझ में आएगा तो पूरी history में ये नहीं समझ आएगा that what time period we are referring to. Now the important question after this, and that is, if I say that how many years, if I ask you how many years have been lapsed since the beginning of Indus Valley civilization, at least the time we know, 3300 BC till this very date, how should we calculate this? Can you calculate now? What we need to do? So that simply means that in the entire timeline, पूरे timeline में we have to start somewhere at 3300 BCE. और फिर क्या करना पड़ेगा, आगे तक उसको काउंट करना पड़ेगा, राइट, आगे तक उसको काउंट करना पड़ेगा. सो व्हाट वी विल डू, समवेयर फर्स्ट एडी, समवेयर फर्स्ट बीसी, एंड देन ऐसे करते करते वी विल बी रीचिंग 2026 AD. What are we doing? Adding, add 3300 plus, do it, 3, and then we will subtract 1 from it. Why? No 0, exactly, very good. So how many years now? Tell me. Exactly. This is the number of years that have been lapsed between the beginning of Indus Valley civilization and today. What we do, we add years. इसके बीच में और इसके बीच में निकालना है, just add these numbers, simple as that, and then subtract 1. You will get number of years lapsed, number of years lapsed. Okay. Now, let us say the revolt of 1857 and this present day, present year. How many years lapsed? Huh, 1857 and 2026, we will add those years. Yes. So, whatever is the year coming, just understand that this is the fastest way we can basically understand. Because यहाँ पे if you see, we are starting from this point, all we have to do is just add years and then reach to this. And this is what we are doing. Is this clear? Clear हो गया सबको? Okay. ठीक है. So timeline is now clear with everyone. Okay. Now the next thing to understand. Let me see any other things we need to know. All right. Now next thing we will be starting with, अब जो नया पार्ट हम करेंगे, periodization of history से पहले हमने timeline को discuss किया. We discussed the timeline. Now timeline is clear to all of us. So when we will start with the ancient history, we will start with BCE or BC, and then in the reverse order we will be moving towards the present time. Now let us talk about the periodization of history. What is this periodization? Periodization simply meaning, the periodization word comes from the word period. Period meaning time. We are talking about time. So therefore, when we say periodization of history, it simply means that placing or putting different phases of history in a manner that it gives us features of a particular time period. What are the features? Economic, political, social of a time period, features and continuity. Continuity in time. What is the meaning of continuity here? Features मतलब features हो गया political, economic, social. Continuity simply shows that from Indus Valley civilization, how we have reached to in Vedic period. Because if you compare both the cultures, they are very different. The kind of pots they are making, the kind of lifestyle they had, the kind of religion they were following, the kind of houses they are having, the geographical region is totally different. So that continuity it also shows. So in the periodization, we actually understand that change, that shift, which is very important. The transition from one period to another period, right? So what is periodization? Where we are dividing the entire history into different segments so as to understand the specific features of each and every segment clearly, and at the same time understanding what is the continuity here. यहाँ पर continuity क्या है, that is also very very important to understand. Okay, now when you talk about periodization, so we have actually divided history into three broader categories. ऐसा कोई हार्ड लाइन नहीं है, मतलब इट इज नॉट सेट ऑन स्टोन कि ऐसे ही होगा तो ऐसे ही थ्री कैटेगरीज वी विल बी देयर. नो, इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट. So when you talk about British period in India, when British came down to India, they colonized India, and when accidentally a lot of things started to be excavated at lot of places. Why excavation might have started? For laying down the railway lines, for construction of some buildings, this and that. So they started getting these evidence of ancient life, ancient communities, lifestyle, everything. So from there, from that time period onwards, they started collecting all those evidences and started looking at the history of India. But history of India ka jo proper progress hai, that never happened at that point of time. Only after the independence, the proper progress of history of India actually starts, or actually it got started. Now the thing is, when British started to see those evidence of the past, obviously they started to compartmentalize different segments of events into different phases. So that present time where British were ruling, 19th century you say, 18th century you say, they call that time period where British were the rulers as the modern period. That is the modern period, because British rule themselves, they want to show themselves as the modern people. So modern things we are coming up with, modern ideas we are coming up with. So the modern period, the time period which was ruled by the Hindu rulers, talking about the religion now, Hindu rulers, they specifically categorize that time period as ancient history. Then a transition and a shift came where the rulers got shifted, rulers got changed, and we have got new rulers, the dominating ones following the religion Islam, and that time period they call as medieval history. So we have modern history where British are ruling, we have ancient history where the native Hindu rulers are ruling, and then we have got the middle time period where the Islamic rulers or the rulers following Islam were ruling the country. Country was not the exact thing at that point of time. So region, हम कहेंगे Indian subcontinent only, this big part of the globe, that part, that is medieval history. Okay. Now when you read your NCERT, in the very beginning of it, NCERT के शुरू में ही, if you see, there's one thing written clearly that when you talk about ancient history, we are going to talk about this time period, starting from this period till this time period. So 7th century AD is basically the time period where ancient India finishes, and from where medieval history starts. So 7th century is basically the time period where you have to also understand these transformations. It is very important to understand that when phases are changing, history में हम ancient से medieval पे जब आ रहे हैं, what sort of society have we already materialized into? What sort of class hierarchy, caste hierarchy, economic setup, any new term. So the transition part is very important. In your R.S. Sharma book, there are few chapters, कुछ ऐसे chapters हैं which talk about this transition. Read those chapters carefully. वो शुरू में नहीं आएंगे, वो last में आएंगे हमेशा. So transition part is very important. For that matter, whatever book you are following, that is up to you. I am only asking you to follow one reference book. So if you are following R.S. Sharma, there are few chapters talking about the transition in society, polity, economy, social structure, and the culture part of it. Read that, because when you read the next phase of history, 8th century AD onwards, the Rajputs, when you start to read, then following it, the imperial Cholas, we start to talk about them. Pallavas, have you heard about Pallavas? Pallava ruler, Chalukya rulers, beautiful temple construction they had. Till today, they had, I mean, the kind of contribution they had at that point of time, we are promoting our tourism. That is acting as a soft power of India today. Okay. So, this entire part, this entire part, you will see everything is different from the earlier kind of setup. Society is a little bit different, and this different, this is how it is different on very small levels. But for that you have to understand what was the earlier level already materialized and set. So till the 7th century AD, what was the kind of society? First of all, have that clarity. For example, till the time we finish ancient part of history, you see class society divided into caste hierarchy, and the caste system got rigid, right? So for these varnas we see Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. 4 broader categories if we see. When you switch to the other side of ancient history, meaning moving towards the modern, towards the medieval history, you start to see that the word Kshatriya is less used and the word Rajput is more used, right? Things start to change like that. Also, multiplication of castes starts. Multiplication of caste was also there in ancient part of history, but it multiplies very fast in the beginning part of the medieval history. Now, why is that so? That is important to understand. If you do not understand this, then the kind of nobility we are going to read in the later chapters, that will become difficult, because understanding the proliferation, the multiplication of people into different communities, different religions maybe, because at this point of time, 7th century AD onwards, new religion will enter Indian subcontinent, and that is Islam. In the ancient part of history, we will be talking about 3 main religions. What are the 3 main religions? Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism. Hinduism, जब हम कहते हैं ना, it is not just a religion, it was a way of life. And it is a way of life. It got materialized into Hinduism later on. Especially when you talk about Puranas. Puran. How many Purans? Ved? How many Purans? Any idea? Those are Vedas. 18. Yes. So, the time period in the history when we start to give reference to the Puranas to associate Hinduism, that is where you start to see the materialization of Hinduism that we see today. But that is somewhere close to 4th century AD, Gupta time period. Before that, this was entire the entire thing was simply materializing itself to give the final shape of Hinduism. Before that, we are going to use the term Brahmanical culture, Brahmanization, Brahmanical culture. Before that, there was Indus Valley civilization. Now, what was the religion of Indus Valley civilization? We have no clarity about that till this very point of time. Although we have got seals, कुछ seals हमें मिले हैं where we have found a figure which is very similar to Shiva. We call it as Proto-Shiva. But we are not really sure whether that is a god which we can associate with Hinduism or a different religion altogether, because we have also found another terracotta figurine of Mother Goddess. But one thing is definite, and that is both male and female goddesses were worshipped even at that point of time. What was that religion? No idea about it. Then came Vedic period. Slowly and gradually, Brahmanical culture started. From the Vedic period, got materialized into Hinduism with coming of Purans. And in the ancient time period, we also have Buddhism and we also have Jainism. The moment you enter 7th century AD, you start to see coming of Islam to India as well. और इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट, इंडिया तो तब नहीं था क्योंकि कंट्रीज जो हैं नेशनलिज्म का देयर वाज अ वेव after which you start to associate yourself with a piece of land. Before that, it was a big part of the world, right? So understand that when Islam will enter India, now we have another religion being added to it. We will be having different sultanate: Delhi Sultanate, Mughal Empire, Bahmani Kingdom. Have you heard about Bahmani Kingdom? Vijayanagar Empire, you all know, right? So when you talk about these 3 sultanates and the empires ruled by the Muslim rulers, you will see the nobility is totally different there. Nobility is totally different. What is nobility? I will explain that when we start that part. But in order to understand nobility, you should have clarity of terms like ethnicity, right? What is ethnicity? Or if I say that this ruler comes from this particular region, religion is same, but ethnicity is different. So that is important to understand right from the beginning. So ethnicity will multiply, will increase, will change, right? So in this, and then also when you talk about modern part of history, then slowly and gradually Christianity will also come, but that is not the time when Christianity for the first time entered India. Christianity entered India way back, but during the European advent of India, during the modern times, Christian missionaries were also started to coming down to India in a formal sense to different charter acts, and then you will find different, all these religions that we have in India today, they started to preach their own teachings, whatever teachings they had. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, then we have Christianity, and there are other religions also. So ये major कुछ religions हैं उसमें, ठीक है? So this is how it got formed. Now, talking about this periodization, so first part is ancient history. Ancient history. What is the timeline where we see the close of ancient and beginning of medieval history? Yes. Who said that? Yes. 7th century. So till 7th century AD. AD or BC? AD. AD it is, right? 7th century AD. But there must be some start time also. 3000? That is Indus Valley civilization. Before that? Stone Age. Stone Age can further be divided into, yes, what are those? Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. Paleo meaning, Paleolithic is the first one. So, Paleolithic, we have Mesolithic, and then we have Neolithic. Lithic meaning, lith meaning stone, very good. Lith meaning stone. Paleo meaning, very good, old or the earliest one. Neo meaning, new, brilliant, new stone. What is Meso then? Yes, so it shows transition. It shows transition. Now tell me one more thing. It shows transition. So let's write it that way. Transition. Now tell me one thing. हमने बोला that this is the earliest one, oldest one, right? This is the new one. If we are differentiating it like that, अगर हम ऐसे divide करें that we have earliest one and then we have newest one यहाँ पे, there must be some differences, right? Defining the earliest and the old, earliest and the new one, correct? कुछ differences होंगे तभी तो हम कह रहे हैं ना कि this is the old and this is the new. So write a tip in the bracket. Whenever क्या कल की क्लास में ही करेंगे. So when we start with these parts, major feature of these classification need to be written next only to this, because in book what you will find, in Paleolithic we have got 10 sites, we have got this evidence, that evidence, that is a lifestyle, that is okay, but what is the major feature highlighting Paleolithic? What is the major feature highlighting Neolithic? So Neolithic, write down first farming communities, first farming communities, first farming communities. We started to see. That means if this is the new, what will be the old part of Stone Age where we will not be having farming communities? Yes, we are only dependent on animal food and also on plant, animal and plant. So hunting and gathering was the kind of lifestyle. This is, although it does not seem to be a pro tip, but what happens when you start to make notes, no, there is lot of things you will find written in the book and in the class notes also, that you yourself get confused what to write and what not to. always remember that at the end of the discussion, you should always have clarity on what defines Paleolithic and what defines Neolithic. What is the major difference between two and how both of them are different in their own style. This is where we got the first farming communities across the world. And this is where, and these classifications are not only related to the Indian subcontinent, this is related to each and every part of the world. One more thing to understand. When I say Paleolithic age, and let us say we have got some evidence of Paleolithic age, let us say in Indian subcontinent, will it be same everywhere in the earth? No, not necessarily. It can be, but it is not mandatory that the time period associated with the evidence found in the related to the Neolithic period found in the Indian subcontinent will always be same as that of found in anywhere else in the world. तो हो सकता है कि एशिया के बाहर में अफ्रीका में we have found Neolithic evidence related to some other time period, but in Asia we have found it at some other time period. Right? Now the important question, if timelines can vary when we talk about Neolithic, Mesolithic and Paleolithic, अगर timelines इसी तरीके से vary कर सकती हैं, then let us say you have found some evidence of ancient past out of any of these time periods. You have got, let us say, one tool. Now you know that tool is related to any one of these timelines. How will you define that that tool belongs to this period or this period? Because we are already saying that across the world, the timelines related to this, not the timeline, but exact date of finding of these things can vary. For example, in Indian subcontinent, the earliest evidence of farming community comes from, let us say, X year. But in, let us say, Africa, it is belonging to Y year. But both of the years we are putting in category of Neolithic. Let us say. How is then that happening? That means there must be some defining feature of Neolithic lifestyle and Paleolithic lifestyle and Mesolithic lifestyle. So that the timelines, even if they are varying, but the kind of tools, the weapons we are getting, that is clearly defining the lifestyle of that time. तो फिर आप वहां से associate कर सकते हो. That means we have to look at the tools. Tools देखने पड़ेंगे कैसे बनाते थे. उस समय कोई 3-story बिल्डिंग तो बना करके रह नहीं रहे थे, है ना. इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स या फिर फ्यूल कार्स तो थी नहीं हमारे पास कि हम टाइम पीरियड का पता लगाते. दे आर मोर एडवांस और लेस एडवांस. सो व्हाट इज द थिंग लेफ्ट विद अस? टूल्स ओनली, मेड अप ऑफ एंटायरली स्टोन. स्टोन ओनली भी है तो कैसा टाइप का स्टोन है? इज इट मोर शार्प, मोर पॉलिश्ड? नाउ वन इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, whenever you get a word polished in your history books, understand what that polish means. In most of the cases, that polished meaning that the surface of that particular tool is so well built that it actually gives you a shine, a reflection like a mirror. And when you do that, you all know the sandpaper. So when we rub the surface of the sandpaper, at point of time it will be very, very smooth. That is what we are calling as polished surface. Polishing a tool will give it the final finish and also will, refine its shape. That is the first thing. Whether the tools are polished or they are simply rough. If they are rough, meaning that it is taken from the riverbed, somewhere else started using for some things. If they are polished, that means humans have started to now understand that if we need our tools, we also keep them in a proper shape, good shape. That is first thing. Also, second thing, if I say that I have got two tools, पहला जो tool है, first tool is a big one and no proper shape is given, but the second tool is a smaller one with sharp tip and a proper, let us say, core part of it, from where I can hold it and then crush the material, is properly made. What do you think is more advanced? Which one is more advanced? The second one. So in the Paleolithic period, we will find the kind of tools जो कैसे होंगे, more like natural ones. जैसा मिला वैसा use कर लिया. The way we are going to see it on the riverbed, we are going to use it in the similar fashion. The more you start to move towards Mesolithic and Neolithic, tools will also start to modify it. So that technology transfer or transmission that we are seeing, new change, updation in the technology, is also what we study in archaeology. The shape of the tool, the size of the tool. In Mesolithic and Neolithic, especially in Mesolithic, you will start to see microliths. Microlith meaning, micro meaning, lith meaning, yes. So if all these time periods you see, when you start to get smaller tools, very precise tools, meaning humans are now learning how to deal with the environment. Earlier, we are struggling to live in this environment, but now we are trying to rule this environment. So don't believe the thing that hunting and gathering lifestyle was very easy. Today's life is tough. Their entire worry was, how are we supposed to have our next food? Survival is the biggest problem. And from this part of survival starts the story of human interaction. Because it is our need. That is why we always say necessity is the mother of invention. Why we invent things? Because we need them. When we need more than 2 people, 3 people, 4 people to hunt a big animal, you cannot be going alone and hitting the stone and killing the animal and eating it and enjoying for the next 10 days. No, we need a group of people, and there we start communicating with each other. That okay, fine, 5 people will be going hunting this animal. That food will be divided among the people. If we are taking something out from our trees, some fruits, some seeds, whatever it is, we are also going to help each other and then distribute the food. So this is how from individual level we start to form smaller group of people. We call it as bands. Bands are small group of people therefore. Why are we coming into bands? To fulfill our need of survival. And now when we are in a band, there must be some rules. अगर 4 में से एक आदमी बस बैठ के देख ही रहा है, उसको कहेंगे तुझे कुछ नहीं मिलेगा बाद में. Only 3 are if putting effort. Why are we giving anything to you? Right? So then starts communication. Then starts dhire institutions will start to come. The one that we are talking about yesterday. Institutions therefore gives you a proper structure. We cannot see those structures working. But because of those structure only, everything is going in a flow. Okay. From bands, different bands will start to club together. One band clubbing with another one coming together, form a big unit called as tribe. So tribes will gradually be formed then. And tribes are mostly kin based. K-I-N, kin. What is kin? Related to blood relation. People related to same blood, same bloodline. So tribes will then be formed. These tribes after so many years will again come together, form even bigger units, will be called as Mahajanapadas, Janapadas. Then these communities, these people, then when they are huge in number, somebody will be there, should be there to give that kind of rules to the society, flow to the society. Then will come the age of empires. Some rule book will be there who will define who is more powerful and who will be the subject, who will have more control of resources and who will simply be paying the taxes. It will only happen when there will be big population. It will not happen when there is only 5 people. So it will take a long time till we reach Maurya Empire, the first empire of Indian subcontinent. 3rd century, 4th century BCE. Before that, Vedic period was there, Indus Valley civilization was there, all these time periods were there. So do you understand how long it takes for an empire to form? All those things that we were discussing in the beginning, governance structure, political structure, economic structure, it takes a long time to form. Because all of these things, we as humans have realized that these are all our necessity, need. Otherwise, things are not going to work out. Right? So, the first part you see here is Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. From this time period, Paleolithic, Stone Age it is basically, this entire ancient India, ancient history basically starts all the way to Harshvardhan Empire. time period is, yes. After ancient history, then we transition to medieval history, right? We transition to medieval history. Now, in medieval history, the timeline starts from transition, which was there in the 7th century AD. Transition, and following this, we will be talking about Rajputs, the tripartite struggle, and then we will be talking about imperial Cholas. Now, this is what we call as early medieval history. Early medieval history. Why we have divided medieval history into early and then late part of it, so that we focus on each and every segment by dividing it into different parts. When we divide things in different timelines, that is where we start to understand periodization. We start to understand the specific features and also the transition part of it. This is the early medieval history, and then the late part of it, or the major part of it, starts with the Sultanate period, Delhi Sultanate. The Sultanate period, 1206. Okay, from this time period. After Delhi Sultanate, Mughal Empire. And in the same timeline, we will be talking about one very important empire, Vijayanagara Empire. Capital at Hampi. So, capital Hampi. Vijayanagara Empire, Bahmani Kingdom, and then we have Mughals, Marathas, Sikh, Marathas, and then also advent of Europeans, meaning coming down of Europeans to India for various reasons, primarily for trade. Primarily for trade, gradually colonization began. So this constitutes entire medieval history, and there is no as such fixed timeline for for the end of medieval history, but in most of the books you will find it somewhere close to the revolt of 1857. In some books it is even earlier, with the decline of Mughal Empire in the 18th century after the death of Aurangzeb in 1707. So then there were late Mughal rulers who were weak successors. So anyways, the revolt of 1857, it is not going to impact our understanding on history. So revolt of 1857, and then we see after medieval part is the modern part. Modern people, British, okay. So modern part. So here you always start with these East India companies, East India Company of different Europeans. What is important here? Location of these East India Company headquarters or major trading centers, ports. This is the area from where prelims questions come. Then after this, expansion by British, expansion by British East India Company, British only. You heard about the policies like doctrine of lapse, permanent settlement. So we will be talking about these policies here. Expansion, after expansion, we talk about revolt of 1857, and afterwards are a lot of changes, institutions like police, judiciary, army, it got set, a new kind of setup got started. Okay, so revolt of 1857 afterwards, and then the national wave of nationalism and freedom struggle. From this part onwards, we start to study different organizations like Indian National Congress and other organizations, and different leaders. Then all the major movements, decade wise, we start to see. So from 1885, onwards. Formation of Indian National Congress onwards till 1947, freedom struggle. Okay, now can you tell me why we call it freedom struggle only after 1885, roughly around 1885, or formation of different organization? Why are we not calling the time period earlier to this as freedom struggle? It was okay. So before this time period, we have got the revolt of 1857. Can we call this also as a phase where we started with freedom struggle? About this revolt, partially correct. Yes. Yes, exactly. See, this feeling of nationalism is therefore the root, is the anchor to understand from where freedom struggle starts. Till this time period, 1857 revolt, people were fighting against the British only, but the purpose, the objective were very, very different. Different people participated in revolt of 1857. There were different centers from where people participated, but all of them have got different reasons for it, right? Only after the Indian Renaissance period, social religious reforms when got started, some reformers in India wanted to bring the good part of or good learning from the Western education to India also. Reform itself meaning that whatever things we are practicing here in India, we want to change all those things which are not letting humans to live like humans. Exploitation. For example, the practice of sati. Have you heard about sati? What is sati? Yes. So this was challenged, और ऐसा नहीं है ये सिर्फ modern time में challenge हुआ. It has been challenged time and again in the medieval part of history as well. But the major part we study in modern India. So in modern India, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he started with this entire idea that we have to stop sati. Why? Because this is so inhumane. You're asking a person to die, to basically sit on the pyre of her husband and to end your life. But if you see the other way around, when a female is going to die, the husband is not asked to do the same thing, right? What are we looking at now? And the kind of culture we are basically trying to make, we are trying to build. This culture, what we are seeing, is also not coming free of cost. It is coming with lot of punishments. Not doing this will give you this. Not doing that will give you that. So, if you read the evidence related to history, it seems like not directly women were asked to or forced to do the sati thing, but indirectly lot of psychological pressure was there. If a female is not performing the sati, then she will not be looked as a good person living among the community, among the people. So obviously you are going to boycott people, right? So women were forced that way. So what we are observing, that these reformers were trying to reform our culture in a manner that all the good parts should remain with us, but the things which are inhumane should go out of the system. Child marriage for that matter. Do you understand the consequence of a child marriage? What happens when a child got married? दो बच्चे उनकी शादी करवा देंगे. They are not mentally ready for it. They are not physically ready for it. The child who is going to born out of that marriage is never going to be healthy. In the adult life of that child, the child will start to face lot of issues. And so what are we contributing to in this country? A kind of population which is unhealthy. Also, the female and the male are also going to get lot of issues and problem, health issues, mental issues are also there. We are not understanding that there is a system in the body that works in its own timeline. When we are pushing it to do the things even earlier, marriage, That is definitely going to affect your mental health and your physical health, obviously. The life will not be, I mean, the number of years, if you see, there is no longevity of life in that case. Okay. So, it is therefore very important to understand that these reforms were much needed. So, in the 19th century, we started with such reforms, and the people, the Indians who started such reforms got boycotted by their own communities. Why? Because we are wired to follow what blindly everyone is following, not asking questions. Reformer asks us to, question everything. Principle of rationality, rationalism, rational thinking, meaning ask the question before doing anything, before following anything, right? Universalism meaning everywhere you should be following, or you should be treating humans like humans, people like people. You should not be differentiating the people among the people, and you should serve humanity first. That is more important. So those changes started to happen, changes start to take place. Gradually from these we started to get into the very thing of education. Well, British have a big contribution when it comes to bringing education, although indirectly to India, but yes, education has got a big role when it comes to transforming our society. That education has created a lot of new forces in the Indian society among our own population, who all started to then push our people for further studies, for further education. If you look at the first bunch of people who started Indian National Congress, all of them were professionals, doctors, lawyers, teachers, well-read. They were actually part-time politicians. So they started with this journey. Gradually that feeling of that we belong to this particular country came slowly. Then came the Gandhian period, the Gandhi phase, where we see different method, different strategies to get what we want. वो धीरे धीरे क्लियर हुआ हमारे में. इतनी बड़ी पॉपुलेशन को एक साथ लेकर के चलना और उसको इंडिपेंडेंस दिलवाना इज नॉट अ केक वॉक. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि आज सबको आप मैसेजिंग कर दोगे एंड एवरी डे नेक्स्ट डे एवरीवन विल कम एंड विल बी देयर विद यू कि चलो जी आज आजादी के लिए लड़ाई करते हैं. नो, एवरीवन हैज गॉट देयर डिफरेंट आइडियाज अबाउट द आजादी, राइट? फॉर सम पीपल, for example, in 1905 when we started with the very idea ki we want our Swaraj, our own country, right? Now the people have questions and pertinent questions. Our own country meaning which category of people are asking their own country? If we come from particular religion, we come from particular language, we come from particular ethnicity, are we allowed to live in this country or not? So you see, gradually the forces of communalism started to enter, and then it will start to intensify. A lot of reasons are there for that. Later on, in 1929, when this entire term of we want Azadi, Swaraj, or we want this independence, and independence meaning what? Will be a country where people will be having their own rights. People will be having their own space. Everyone therefore will be part of it. So gradually we start to move towards how we see our nation. Gradually we rectify the image of how we want our nation to be in our head, in our mind. People participated in that. Right. Whenever we retaliated, British always tried to suppress our voices. And whatever happened in the colony was never reflected in the British newspapers. So whatever is happening in colony will stay in colony. It will not go outside the colony. So people of the time had really fought against those forces. And then eventually we got our independence in the year 1947, right? So in modern history, we talk about all of this. So why freedom struggle after that time period? Because then slowly we started to understand the meaning of nation, that common belongingness, that feeling, that emotional attachment to your land, right? That happened gradually. And then after this, there is certain part of world history where we talk about world wars, where we talk about revolutions. No, that is not a separate part actually. If you see modern history padhte hi aapko, you have to give reference to those things. Like Russian Revolution has got a major role to play when you talk about the entry of socialism in India in 1920 and onwards. Okay, So we have to actually link those things. So we study those things, socialism, communism, right? So this is how we basically have divided different sections of history into different parts. Is this clear now? The timeline is clear to everyone. Periodization is also clear. ऐसा तो नहीं है 4 दिन के बाद आपको पूछोगे medieval history कहाँ से start होती है कहाँ end होती है and you will say medieval history meaning the British. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा. So you understand. And if any time I ask you how many years have been lapsed between Gupta Empire and present time, you will be able to answer. Clearly answer. Timeline is clear. No zero is there in the timeline. Remember that. Okay. So let us take a break. We will start after a break. Let's take a break of 10 minutes. We will start after that. Then we are going to start with the last part of this, that is sources of history, where we will be starting with the archaeology. Okay. Okay. ठीक है, ठीक है, आप एक बार अपने बाहर जाके ना अपने YouTube पे चेक कर लीजिएगा वॉइस। चलो, now let us start with sources of history. So let us begin with the sources now. Let us start with sources of history. When I say sources of history, I mean the sources which actually helps us understand history. Okay. So क्या क्या sources हैं हमारे पास? We have got like different sources, but वो सारे sources को we have simply put into broader categories. We have placed them into two broader categories. First is archaeological sources and then literary sources. Archaeological sources and then we have literary sources. What is the meaning of archaeological source? Remains. So archaeological source, when we say, we are talking about the study of past based on the material remains, the vestiges, the remains. That is what we are calling as archaeology. So archaeology meaning what? Whatever evidence we are getting today of the earliest animals, humans, the things they were using, everything is part of it. Let us write it down. What is the meaning of material remains here? What exactly is this? So material remains meaning, it simply means coins. After coins we have other sources like inscriptions. अभी इस पे बात करेंगे. Inscriptions, then bones of both animals and humans, artifacts. What are artifacts? Man-made things that can be taken from one place to another place. So it is part of, then temples or any sort of architecture, big structures, temples, statues, right? Broadly we have got this category, right? Now, when we study coins, do you know what we call the study of coins as? Study of coins is called as numismatics. What do we actually study in coins? About the kingdom, correct? About the place where the king has ruled. That means when we are talking about coin, very good Adarsh, when we are talking about coins, coin is telling us various things. So there are two sides of coins. सबसे पहले let us start from that part. There are two sides of a coin. What do we call them? Huh? Internal and external? Huh? Head and tail. But in history we call it front and back. We call it front and back. We call it obverse and reverse. Obverse and reverse. What is obverse side? Yes. And what is reverse side? Yes. What do you find on the obverse side in most of the cases, in today's coins also? What is the obverse side having on it? Symbol, some figure, number 1, number 2, 3, and on the back side? So similarly in the ancient coins also, if you see, in most of the cases obverse and reverse side consists of, mostly in the obverse side, if you see, ruler's picture or ruler's image. Image is the right word. Ruler's image, right? Then on the reverse side, lot of script, lot of language, many things they have written. So we are writing script and language here. Things they have written. They have used lot of titles also. So titles sometimes are also written here. First thing related to coin, therefore, is the terminology. Okay, no front, no back. It is obverse and reverse. Okay. Now, the second important thing associated with the coin is exactly metal, or let us say material. With what material it is made up of? Yes, we have found lot of gold coins, silver coins, copper coins, bronze, lot of other coins we have got, right? Now, iron mostly was not used. Why? Because it was very difficult to work with iron when it comes to coin making. When you're making coin, you would always want a metal which is easy to basically give any sort of structure or form to it. Silver, for that matter, what do we call that property of metal where we can actually put some impression on it? Malleability. Malleability? Two properties, malleability and ductile. What is ductile? Which? Can be made into wires. And what is malleable? Write it down. Malleable and ductile. Malleable and ductile. Okay. Now check the proper meaning of these. Tell me in the next class, because these things are important with coins. Okay. Now coins, metal. So material is important. Now tell me one thing, that for example we have got two coins. One coin is made up of silver and the other coin is made up of bronze. What does this suggest? Anything else? Economy, the prosperity of the empire, the prosperity. Not only the metal tells us the prosperity, but how many coins we are getting made up of only gold, right? And only silver. What if we have got large number of copper coins? Budget is little tight on coin making. Economy is not that good. This is how historians understand the transition part actually. The kind of stuff people are using. Okay, so the metal therefore is very important. Another very important thing related to coin is the thickness of the coin. The thickness of the coin. Thickness of coin tells us some very important thing. What do you think? If a coin, you feel after touching it, has got weared down, lot of wear and tear is there, the surface is thin, not the surface, the actual thickness is now less as compared to its original one. What it is going to tell us? The coin might have changed lot of hands. The more usage of coins, the less number of fresh coins, meaning not in great circulation. Circulation also matters, right? If it is in great circulation, it means the economy was monetary economy. What is monetary economy? Circulation of money. The economy is working not on the barter system, it is working on money. What is barter system? Exchange things for. So for example, I want mangoes, I have to search for somebody who is ready to give me mangoes in return of what that person is. Let us say that person is wanting orange. So barter system is a bit complex that way. But when we have got this independent currency, this coin, you can go anytime in the market and you can sell your, buy any of the things. You can also sell any of the things and get some money back, right? So, and the amazing part, Hadappans have also, we have got some evidence of some seals which we believe today they might be using for exchange, but not exactly exchange. Most of them have been used as a seal. That seal is talking about from one place to another place, the things were moving. People were quite advanced. Okay. So coin thickness is very important. It tells us about the circulation, and also greater the circulation, greater the geographical area it is going to cover, correct? Greater the geographical area it is going to cover, what it is going to tell us? We are going to understand the geographical extent of that kingdom. Keep on writing. Geographical extent of that kingdom. If you talk about Ashoka, the Mughal Empire, the Maurya Empire. In the Maurya Empire, lot of inscriptions similar to what we are, reading here in the form of coins. Lot of inscriptions have been distributed there. So many different places. Northwest part, northeast part, the major capital city part. Those inscriptions are simply telling us the geographical extent. Similarly, coin distribution tells us the geographical extent. You will also find some coins which we call as superimposed coins. What do you understand by this? Superimposed in general English meaning? That on a particular coin, some other impression has been put. Some another impression is there. Now, superimposition shows that might be the new dynasty has come and replaced the earlier one and has used a similar coin just to show that now we are the new rulers of the land. They have used the same coin and put their mark on it. Superimposed coins we have also got. Right. Similarly, in the ancient part of history, the earliest part of history, we have got superimposed paintings in the caves. Meaning one painting is done, then another one is done on it. Some has got multiple layers. We have no clarity as to why people were doing that. Why on that one place only they are simply putting different pictures on it. But could be the case that that particular cave or that particular part of the cave was very much sacred to the people. That is why with time or with maybe new people coming, they are simply adding new features to it. But superimposition is always there. So in the coins also, you will find lot of coins which are superimposed. Earliest coins, if we see, punch marked coins, then die stuck coins. Punch marked coins were the earliest ones. Punch marked coins, as the name suggests, have been punched so hard, the metal have been punched so hard that it has got some sort of impression on it. Now, what sort of metal we would be requiring to make punch mark coins? The metal which is easily going to get the impression. Therefore, we will not be giving preference to iron in that case. Clear, Adarsh? Because in that case, you have to put more and more force on it. So, silver for that matter, yes, easily they can be twisted and turned and bent and like that. So, we started with punch mark coins. The coins were not really beautiful in the sense that whatever figure we were getting were not very much refined. Gradually, we start to get very refined pictures on. You look at the numismatics of Gupta Empire. When you look at the numismatics of Gupta Empire, on the obverse side, you will start to see the clear images of, clear pictures of the rulers sitting on a horse, a naval ship they have beautifully created on it. And on the reverse side of it, they have written the title. So, do you really feel that coming up with coins for any ruler is going to add to their power in any way and also going to intimidate the other ruler? Yes, this has a major role to play. Whenever a foreigner is going to enter your kingdom, they will see the beautiful structures, maybe temples, maybe beautiful pillars ruler has erected. coins people are using, and the efficiency of using the coin is also going to make great impression on the mind of the traveler, that the market here is always ready, I can anytime go and I can anytime purchase. Coins therefore are very, very important, right? So these are the basic things that you need to know about coins. Okay, after coins we have another source as inscription. What are inscriptions? Written document. Then what is manuscript? Inscriptions are like sculptures. So then what is manuscript? Inscriptions are also written by hand. Hard surface. So written on the hard surface is inscription. Written on palm leaf, birch bark is manuscript. And you know what, this has got to do a lot with northern and southern language, the way we write the things. In North India, the writing is much straight lines. In South India, we talk about Kannada. How we write the letters? In a curve manner. But in North India, most of the languages, especially Hindi, if you see, straight lines. Is there anything to do with writing style, or just man kiya to likh diya aise? Writing style? Understand that everything we are doing is because of the limited amount of resources we have. Yes, Shringa? Depends upon the surface, very correct. So, what do you think when we are writing in the curve manner? What kind of surface? Smooth surface? Hard surface? And if we are only able to only mark the straight lines? Yes. If we are able to draw the curves comparatively, not exactly smooth, but easy to write, at least to draw the curve. So the material on which things used to be written earlier in the time, that was different. Right? On the palm leaf or on the birch of a hard part of the tree. Now whenever we are going to write on the hard part of the tree, the outer surface of that tree, chhal jisko hum kehte hain, we have to stretch, we have to basically engrave those straight lines. If we are writing on the outer part of that, if we are writing it on the leaf, it becomes relatively easy to use the curves and this and that. That is how writing has been evolved. You're getting the point? And interesting part is the pronunciation of the words also vary and also depends a lot on the climate and also on the region's humidity, moisture level, temperature, everything. Because we want our words to be clearly understood by the other person. So sound matters, right? Sound matters. Kind of North Indian climatic situations, kind of situations, climatic conditions in South India, both are different, very different, right? That translates into how we are writing, on what material we are writing and what words we are using. It should not echo, it should go straight to the listener, so that matters. So everything therefore depends upon what were the conditions around us, right? So at any point of time, now if anybody debates about which language is superior, which writing is superior, just tell them the reason, go back in time and try to understand the climatic conditions and the material we used to have at that point of time. Only material, whatever minimum resources we have, based upon that people have started writing. So writing was how we are expressing ourselves. It is not something which we are always comparing ourselves with the other person. Okay, so this is how the writing got started. Okay, now Inscription meaning writing on the hard surface. So hard surface meaning the temple walls, rock surface, pillars we are erecting. On all of those things we are writing this. This is inscription. Manuscript is different from this. We will not be talking about that here in this part. So when we talk about inscription, we are writing things, right? Now there are two things related to writing. First is script. Second is language. Is there any difference between two? Script and language. Someone has already done? It is basic ABC of any language. So for example, we have in Hindi we have Devanagari script. Devanagari is the script. Script is used to basically communicate. So when you are communicating, that is a language. When you write anything in your language, Kannada, you use the letters, you use the words. That is basically the script. That is basically the script. Every sign you are making has got a specific sound associated with it. Every curve you are making is making the other letter different from the first one. So symbols and sounds together form script. But what is language? What we are communicating is language, which is only possible because we have script. So when you WhatsApp your friend, let us say, you WhatsApp your friend something, you are writing that in English only. I mean the letters you are using is A, B, C, D in your WhatsApp. But you are trying to communicate something in Kannada only. Right? That means what? It is not important that only with one script one language can be used. With one script any language can be used. With any language any script can be used. So script is basically the foundation of our communication. And language is what we communicate by, putting together those signs and those sounds, and then we make a complete word, sentences, then we communicate. Right? You know the earliest scripts and the earliest languages in the Indian subcontinent? Before that, Pali language, Prakrit language, Tamil, Sanskrit, these are languages. What is a script then? Brahmi is a script. Tamil Brahmi script. Earliest evidence of Tamil we have got from a region near Madurai, from one cave. Tamil Brahmi script they have used there. Similarly, the evidence of Kannada inscription from 6th, 7th century AD we have got from some of the regions in Karnataka, earliest evidence. So languages were born like this gradually and slowly from one to other. Prakrit people were using in northern part of the land because Sanskrit was not easily understood by everyone. So people, commoners were using Prakrit. Prakrit has got many variants. With the time it has got many variants. So one thing we have is script, one is language, one is dialect. What is dialect? The pronunciation. So when you see North India, in North India, Hindi is mostly used in lot of states. But have you ever observed this difference that when you start to move from one state to another state, the style of speaking or using Hindi starts to change. The person who is living in the east part of India is using Hindi differently. Person who is living in the west part of India and north part of India is using Hindi differently. I am because not sure about the southern languages, how southern languages are also changing every 10 kilometers distance. Therefore, I am not giving that example. Is there any difference? I mean, when you move from one, there is difference. Kannada also changes. Every 10, 15, 20 kilometers, maybe the speaking style changes. The focus on any part of that word starts to change. So that regional effect we see, that is dialect. Sometimes the words used for different things also change. For rice, they have some different word for it. Maybe the root is same, but the style of speaking is different. That is a dialect. So this is how these things change. Okay. So now when we talk about inscription, inscription gives us what? It gives us the information of the time. For example, the inscriptions of Maurya Empire. We have got lot of inscriptions. Some inscriptions are called as royal inscriptions. Royal inscriptions are the ones who were basically the messages of the ruler to the people, to his subjects, that you should follow these rules every day, things like that. It is very similar to when you are traveling, let us say, and while traveling you see the milestone. You see the milestone. Milestone is going to give you some sense about how far is your destination from your present location. Inscriptions work something like that. It gives you idea of what is happening right now at this place and what, let us say, is the message written there. If anything new is coming up, how the ruler want to change the society or whatever it is. It acts as a messenger. It acts as a, you can also say, the ruler, whenever they want to assure their people, they also write inscriptions. Donative inscriptions are also there. If you visit any of, I have because seen it in temples, lot of temples. You might have seen it in other places also, that when you go to any temple, there are certain walls or certain tiles or on flooring, some people's name are written on it, who have donated that particular thing. They are called donative one. The donative inscriptions, the ones who have been donated. And lot of inscriptions are donated by the rulers, but some are donated by the private people as well. Their names are inscribed, but we don't know who those people were at that point of time. So a lot of inscriptions are there basically. So inscription is telling us what? Inscription is telling us what used to happen at that point of time. Now understand that when we talk about this segment or this part, inscription, as the part of archaeology, we try to understand two things. First, what is the content of the inscription, right? What is the content of the inscription? Meaning, what is the thing actually written here? That study of inscription is called as epigraphy. E-P-I-G-R-A-P-H-Y, epigraphy. When you're reading the entire content and we are trying to make the sense of what is written there. Other part of it says, when you are understanding the writing style. Now we are focusing on the writing style itself. Writing style meaning understanding the or recognizing the shape of letters, sound associated with it. What do we call it? मालूम है? We call it paleography. And numismatic UPSC had already asked in prelims, that study of coin is called, 4 options were given. In a similar manner, they can be asking these things. What is paleography and how is it different from epigraphy? Overall content, what is written there, what is the meaning of that? And paleography is studying the writings. There are experts who study writings only, right? So these are the 2 other important things related to inscription. Okay, now understand that when we talk about archaeology, so in the archaeology itself, we have also got bones as the evidence. Now, bones meaning the skeleton, human bones or the animal bones. We study whatever bones we recover from the graves, right? We have got lot of graves from especially Indus Valley civilization, if you see, and also in lot of South Indian sites, the megalith culture we call it. We have got some beautiful and huge graves in South India, not only restricted to South India. In some areas we have, some of the areas are Northwest India as well, but majorly South India, where people have built beautiful graves like this. So this is a capstone, the topmost stone. Then here they have put these stones in a round fashion like this, in the round fashion like this. Okay, and then they have erected huge vertical stones like this. We have also got a peep hole sometime here beneath this capstone. So when we study this, it seems like people used to use the same grave, maybe for different people, maybe for same family they are using this. So for one member of the family, this is the grave. When the other member of the family is going to die, they are going to place the body from this peephole inside the grave. Not only the human body is there, but also we have found lot of weapons, tools that the people of the time might be using. We have got evidence of lot of iron tools, lot of jewelry and pots. In those pots, we have got some of the evidence of seeds, the food they used to eat. And their maybe favorite animals. We have also got evidence of animals skeleton here. This is also there in Indus Valley civilization. Not exactly in this manner. Indus Valley civilization graves, if we see, there also we have got evidence in the graves itself. Along with human bodies, animals were also being laid in the same grave, along with lot of things which are needed for a human to survive. Food, their animals, their favorite cloth maybe, or their favorite jewelry maybe. This reflects what? Now, how is this part of archaeology helping us understand the people or the past? How people lived. And also it is suggesting us that maybe people of the time believed in life after death. So that when this human is going to die, this person in the next life is definitely going to enjoy the things, whatever we are putting next to his body. Right? So people might be believing in life after death. We have got these huge, beautiful graves, especially in South India, called as megaliths. Why megalith? Lith is stone, mega is huge stones. They have basically cut the stones in such a manner that huge stones in rectangular fashion, in circular fashion, we have no clue how they manage cutting off such huge rocks. Because at that point of time, there were no, mechanical tools. We did not have machines. How were they managing it? For the same reason, we are also confused about construction of beautiful temples, especially in South India. When you look at those huge towers, the roof of the temple, if you see, heavily made, heavily done, huge stones on the top of the tower, on the top of the temple, and the entire temple is still standing. Lot of earthquakes had happened in the past, lot of flood situation had happened in the past, still those temples are standing. There must be some sort of things that they were aware about, they had the knowledge about, which we are not aware. So then there is also a theory going around the world, which says, not related to history, but related to human evolution, which says it is a general belief that we humans are much superior than these humans who were in the past. But if we look at the kind of things they were indulged into, they were doing every day, it feels like we are the degenerated versions of those humans. Because today we require machines. We are working with technology by saying we want to make ease in our work, but actually those were the people who were cutting these huge stones. When we will start with the megaliths chapter, I will be showing you the actual pictures. Those huge stones. I think I have got one. Nice. कोई बात नहीं, next में देखेंगे. But even if you look at such sculptures, this is reclining Buddha. Just see how beautifully they have carved every part of it. Every part of it. Right? This is Ashokan pillar inscription, a close view. So if you look at this, they have engraved something on it. I don't know how it works. So these are the letters, these are the signs they have made. Right? Then we have Harappan site, Mohenjo-daro. So this part, this elevated part that you are seeing is called as citadel. Citadel, meaning that part of the city which is in most of the cases occupied by the most influential people of the time, mostly the rulers. Although we have not got clarity whether those people, Indus Valley civilization people, were having any sort of ruler or what kind of governance structure they had, obviously because we have not deciphered their script yet. But if you see the higher part of the city, which always will be in the west direction, and the remaining part of the city, which is much bigger in size, there you will get small circles, squares, rectangle. It seems like those were the houses of the subjects. And we have also got evidence of some workshops in Indus Valley civilization. So in the lower part of the city, you will find, like, you see these walls. These walls now in the dilapidated condition, but earlier these, and just see, this is the brick lining on the floor. Could be the street of the time. So if you see these images, it gives us the clarity that those people were much superior. We have also got evidence of a site called as Lothal, which talks about, could be that site was used by these people as their dockyard. So they might be using the water route to move to the other part, because we have found Harappan seals in Mesopotamia, Mesopotamian seals in Indus Valley. So trade relations were there. So people of the time knew about these things, right? That is why they were indulging themselves into such construction. And this is Indus Valley civilization script, undeciphered till the time. This is the script. This is the script. These are the letters, the signs. There are not much signs, but whatever signs these are, we are not able to decipher these. Just look at the signs. Now, what is the possible meaning of these signs? We have not understood that. We are still working on it. So these are the seals. And then this is a stone sculpture from Indus Valley civilization. Now, this is also archaeological evidence. How it helps us understand something about Indus Valley civilization? What it is telling us? It seems like, so historians believe that this person is actually, could be actually the priest, could actually be the priest or could be the king. And then they have actually sculpted the image of this. So we have some headband kind of thing also here at the head. It signifies something more powerful. Then you look at a proper beard if you see. Then look at this painted graveware pottery. This is just a potsherd, a part of a pottery being used by the people of the earliest times. Pottery means what? When you get any of the evidence of a pottery, it shows us what? Kya dikhata hai ye? If you are making pots, it means what? Why are you making pots? To store the food. If we are at a stage where we are storing the food, what kind of agriculture practice? I'm talking about the magnitude of agriculture practice. What do you think we were at? Surplus production. If there is no surplus production, whatever we are producing, we are consuming. If we have surplus production, in that case only, whatever we are producing, we are storing it as well. In Harappan civilization, we have got in Harappa 6 granaries, 6 rectangular granaries where people used to hoard the grains. In Mohenjo-daro, the site we were looking at earlier, we have got evidence of a big pool, great bath we call it, great bath. Now that shows what? And it is situated at the citadel, not in the city. It shows what? Some ritual maybe. Otherwise, if it is it was used by the commoners, it might be a swimming pool for everyone. They have collected the water, everyone can get into the water, can bathe, can use the water, whatever it is. But it is located in the citadel. These things are simply suggesting us that people of the time might be using this as a sacred pool. Do you feel that today also we are following some sort of such practices? Like what? Are there sacred pools we are going to? Our families are going to? On some days like lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, there is a community bathing at the pious places. So all these are now the part of culture. You cannot simply segregate our practices of what we are doing today from how it used to happen. Yes, the only thing that would be changing is earlier the magnitude of the practice and for exactly what reason they have started it could be faded with the time, but today they have reshaped into something else. Okay, so potsherd we have got. This clearly shows that people have now started producing surplus food. Also, if you look at northern black polished ware used in the later Vedic period, so beautiful pottery they have made. It shines, literally it shines. The surface of that pottery shines. So it clearly shows that people that now have started to get the clarity that when guests are coming to our house, we have to take out the best plates and best all the utensils and bartan in our house, like all the Indian families do. We all buy some stuff. Our parents always buy some stuff, good plates, and then whenever we have some guests coming, then only they are coming out of the cupboard. For commoners, for family people, they are not used basically. So such are the practices here. And then we have coins. Now see, two images have been engraved on this coin. And on the reverse side, if you see, some titles you will be finding. Right. So these are all archaeological sources. Now the things that we were talking about here, like the body, the remnants. Study of human body also tells you different conditions in which people used to live. For example, the condition of your teeth is going to tell us any sort of dental cavity, any sort of disease, anything like that. Similarly, any bone of the body of any human, animal is also going to give us the clarity whether this human was suffering from some sort of disease or not. The study of animal bones also gives us the clarity whether that animal was domesticated or not. Wild animal's body and the domesticated animal's body is going to get some differences in between two. For example, the wild dog of ancient times, wild dog if you see, and look at their teeth, very sharp and very, very strong. Yes, exactly like that. Shavana is doing this, like this. Yes, but when you look at domestic dog's teeth, they will not be that sharp, not that long maybe. So that is the difference. So this tells us that in both the cases, there are differences. Domestication has been. What is domestication then? When we are providing some conditions, certain conditions or certain environment to that animal or maybe to the plant, where we are giving them the proper care. On, time we are giving them the food, the water, the shelter they require, the love they need. So our bodies start to therefore change like that. Small changes will be there. Okay, so bones tells us all of that thing. Then artifact. Artifacts meaning the potsherds that we have seen, tools that we are making. Now tools also tell us if we have got lot of tools related to agriculture, telling us that agriculture is flourishing. If lot of weapons, that means this particular community was trying to somehow defend themselves, maybe the time where everyone is fighting against each other. In Indus Valley civilization, if you see, therefore, we do not get much of the evidence talking about these weapons in large numbers. But in the later period, the Vedic period, if you see, we have got evidence of the weapons much more in number as compared to the Vedic, as compared to the Indus Valley civilization. Telling us what? Telling us these are two different set of people and they have different preferences. Okay, and then we have different structures, temples, different sort of structures like citadel that we have discussed here. All of these things are telling us what? The kind of creativity humans have got with the time. Right? So these are the things that we study in archaeology. There is much more related to archaeology that we will be doing tomorrow. Okay. Now we are basically ending the class here. Any doubts till this point? Everything is clear? Do not make notes today. Just read your class 6 NCERT and just listen to the lecture again. Revise whatever you have written. Let me complete this chapter, then start working on your notes. Okay? Okay, so we are ending our class here. We will be continuing this topic of archaeology in next class and subsequently finishing up with this chapter. Thank you so much.